to another edition of the Business and Personal Podcast, where we bring you closer to people that are doing great things in the world. And thrilled today to have David Lawrence on with us. He's the founder and CEO of the Gait Foundation, doing absolutely incredible things, offering free educational resources for people with complex walking disorders. It's something that affects a lot more people, I think, than what we realize. And there's a shortage of information out there. So what David's doing is incredible in connecting people with people that can help them. We're going to talk more about that. But first of all, David, thanks so much for taking out of your busy day to join us.
Oh, absolutely. Happy to do so. I literally just left a patient in the clinic, so it's exciting to come in here and talk with you and share with you what we do.
All right. Well, hey, it's the Business and Personal Podcast. That's the title of this. So let's learn a little bit about you first and what ultimately led you to Gait.
Yeah, I've been a physical therapist about 30 years, which is hard to believe I'm that old. But I started in the field in sports medicine. I went to college on a basketball scholarship, thought I was going to be an NBA player, realized I was a small fish in a big pond. And so I went from that dream to spending a lot of time in the training room. So got interested in sports medicine. That got me into the field. And then when I had been working in athletic training, sports medicine for a few years, I was lucky enough to get into the University of Miami and had a great program called Orange Bowl for Disabled Youth. And it was just the beginning of the technology era in prosthetics and orthotics. And kids could finally get out and be athletic again. So I was super excited to be there and take my athletic training sports background and work with these kids with disabilities to realize, hey, you don't have to be labeled by your disability. You can be a great athlete still. Just because you have an amputated lower leg because of an injury doesn't mean you suddenly aren't an athlete. How can we make you an athlete again? So, and then after Miami, I had a 2-year service obligation to the Veterans Administration. So I spent 2 years there coming right out of the Iraq War situation. So a lot of older veterans, but a lot of younger veterans as well. So that was exciting. How I got interested is taking my interest in sports background and my father, who's a physicist, and interest in science and mechanics, and bringing those things together. How do you take a inanimate object like a prosthetic limb or a brace and marry it to an animate object like the human being and maximize human performance? That, I may be a geek, but that's fun to me.
So what was it ultimately that led you to creating Gait? Where was it that you realized the shortage of resources available for people with walking disorders?
Right. Well, once I came out of the VA, it was fairly quick to realize that outside of the Veterans Administration, where there's a little more of a focus, there was a lot of lacking in the community. And at first it was, a mixed bag. But over the years, we've become an industry that's very spine and sports oriented, a very focused on that reimbursement wise and kind of sprains, strains, aches and pains. And the patients who have really complicated issues that really need our help kind of become a second-class citizen in rehab as far as how we cater to them on reimbursement issues with insurance companies or Medicare. So I had been trying to teach courses around the country when asked to, and I'm adjunct faculty at Old Dominion University in Virginia, and also visiting faculty here at Virginia Commonwealth University. So I teach and been involved, but I just felt like we weren't going anywhere. We weren't making a difference, and had the opportunity because of a very generous donor that got behind this idea of creating a foundation in which we could not just teach a weekend course here and there, but actually create content online and use the internet as an avenue to give away information. And I'm always reminded to say it's free, but it's free because we have generous donors. It's not free to make. We have to produce. If you look at the videos we produce online, they are all first class, professionally done, because we want that information to be at a level that anyone can benefit, from your physical therapist to your doctor to patient or caregiver.
So explain just how that works. You're based in Richmond, but you're connecting people across the country to others, sort of like I like to call an Angie's List of caregivers that you've created there. Explain to our listeners and viewers how you've made those connections.
Well, again, this is a fairly small niche field where we deal with things like prosthetics. It is not a huge group of people, luckily. So you kind of get to know people around the country. And years ago, I started something Walking Free. So we put in prosthetic and orthotic centers in underprivileged regions around the world. So also have a global impact and connections. But we realized that the only way we could make a big difference was to educate people, find a way to do that in a reasonable way through our website and on online materials, and then put them on a database of providers. So we have a provider map. Now, again, it's very small. This just launched. Our certification program we've been working on for 7 years. This is the quality that we're putting out. Just launched last month. But you're going to start seeing, our first person that signed up was from Iceland. Second one was from Tennessee. The third from South Korea. The fourth from Michigan. So this is going to start to grow all over the world. But what you'll see is we have a map on our website where the dots will start showing up all over the country and all over the world. And if you're in a place saying, hey, I wish I could get that kind of care, eventually you're going to see a dot in your area. And that'll be a therapist that you know is Gait Rehabilitation Specialist, a GRS certified individual. And that person can help you, or at least has the information to be able to help you. So that's how we do it. We try to share that information with everybody we can now. We try to create these certified professionals for the future.
So for the people that are listening or watching and they maybe stumbled across this because they were searching for help, what are the typical types of patients that would really benefit from the connections you can make?
Yeah, and really what we call complex gait issues. And certainly that includes anyone with limb amputation using a prosthetic limb. That includes anyone that also has a neurologic issue that affects their gait. That could be someone with MS, with cerebral palsy, CP, with a stroke, with Parkinson's, with peripheral neuropathy. Can be complex leg reconstruction surgeries. I have a young girl right now, 9 years old, with bilateral rotational plasties. Had her femurs had to be cut, turned, and reattached. So she has her legs, but everything had to be reconstructed. So those kind of things are the things that we really look after. Now, if someone has an ankle sprain, there's probably a lot of therapy centers that can help you pretty much anywhere. But if something looks beyond that, or it's just not working well where you're at, the Gait Center is the name of our practice. That's the practice where we show what we can do. We prove what we're doing on the foundation side, because the foundation side doesn't treat patients. We share information to patients and patient providers.
So what's a realistic expectation for someone for how quickly they can start to see improvement?
Oh, wow. I think you can start seeing improvement immediately. It kind of depends on where the level you come in. We are kind of known in our clinic as a bit of a failed case place. That people have been to therapy somewhere else and it's just not working. And that's where, again, people are traveling long distances and still are to come see us. And I think this doesn't make any sense. In the United States, it shouldn't be the case. You should be able to get care in your area. But they're coming to us and almost immediately they say, okay, I better understand. Because the big thing we are is education-based, even in our clinic. It's understand what's going on. And once they feel like they understand, the fear goes down and they get a better sense of what they're doing as they redevelop what we call proprioceptive awareness. Proprioception is that sense of knowing where you are in space. And you have confidence because you know right now you're sitting down, right? And you know you're looking at a computer screen, your arms are on your side. You know where you are. But if you had a prosthetic limb, you don't quite know where your foot is. And you're moving around and you don't know where that is, you're going to be pretty apprehensive. So one of the things we work on from day one is that sense of understanding how to pick up pressures from your residual limb in a prosthetic socket to tell you where the foot is in space. That gives you immediate sense of, oh, I have better ownership on where I am. I feel better about what I'm doing and I'm not just going to fall down on the next step. And then we progress that model all the way from, I can just walk again to I can play sports again. That's not for everybody. If an 80-year-old patient comes in with a diabetic, I'm not going to say, hey, let's go play football. But they want to walk. That's great. But I have a 16-year-old kid says that, hey, let's look at the possibility of that happening.
Yeah, that seems like it's part of the process. Just making sure you have realistic goals also for people that going into it. Always. And we have some surprise me. We have some patients you and I both know that are older patients. You would kind of think, well, they'd probably just be happy moving around. But the reality is, no, they want more than that. So great. If you want more than that, we will help you to get whatever level is realistic for you. But yes, in physical therapy, that's one of the things we really do is we're goal setters. We establish realistic goals from the beginning. If you beat all these goals, great. Let's set new goals and we'll go farther. But we aren't we'll cure this problem over time. And no, we're going to put stages, we're going to put things in place, goals we're going to attain to get to an ultimate goal. Another layer of what you're doing is called the Walking Free program. So just explain to our listeners a little bit about how that's worked and what you've been able to accomplish with that.
Sure. Walking Free actually predates Mission Gait or even the Gait Center. 20 some years ago, I got the opportunity with a group called Physicians for Peace to go into Southeast Turkey, which is right on the Syrian Iraqi border. And this is again, right during the Desert Storm or the Iraqi issues. And there was some 40,000 young amputees due to landmines and things like that in that area. So I was asked to go as an expert in this area, and that's my first kind of exposure to, wow, there is a huge problem we can't even imagine. And you get over there, and there were supposed to be 20 kids we were going to try to help and see how it went. And I think 800 showed up. And we had to try to triage down to 20 kids we were going to try and help. And on the way back from that trip, I wrote what is now Walking Free, which is a five-year pilot plan to put in prosthetic and orthotic centers. Not only the center to produce the devices, but also the education and training to have therapists and doctors know what to do to help those patients and get them to the right device, but also they use that device. So that's what Walking Free started, or where it started. We have now spread that to 10 locations in 7 different countries around the world. Every one of them is an area of need. I just got back from the Solomon Islands in the South Pacific. And again, a very similar GNP to Haiti. So, a tough situation, tough area, but tremendous need. And they had no such thing as prosthetics or braces. So if you lost your leg there and amputated because of an accident or something, you were hopping around with a stick. And we think of that's like, well, this is like an old timey stuff. No, this is today's world. So now for the first time in the history of this country, they have an entire fully functioning prosthetic lab that we built in a 40-foot shipping container here in Virginia. And it's a plug-and-play system that's replicable. We can repeat that in any location in the world. And within 4 months, we can build a center in a container, deliver it, and they can hook it up and be functioning prosthetically, production-wise. Now, they have to create trained individuals. So we work with the ministries of health in these countries to send people to school. So by the time the container comes, you've got people that are educated. And then we do the hands-on training with them. Some of it's over this Zoom, a lot of Zoom, but some of it's firsthand. When I was just there, 19 hours of flying, 15 hours of time change. That wears on you a little bit. But I taken some young people with me, so hopefully they'll bounce back better than I do.
What a perspective you must have gained through all this, man. Anytime any of us are having a bad day, we just have to think about some of the things that you've seen, and things don't seem so bad, huh?
Perspective. I say to patients all the time, I get patients that come into our clinic for, say, a knee replacement. And they look across the gym and they see that 10-year-old kid without a leg, and he's learning to walk again or learning to try to run again. And they're like, I feel bad. Maybe I shouldn't be here. I said, no, you should be here, because if you're in our clinic, then we're raising funds, from you paying for services that are going to allow us to do giveaway services to some kids that need it. So we want you here. But at the same point, yes, it does look over there and go, when I'm complaining about my knee kind of aches, maybe not so much, right? When I'm saying I'm having a bad day or I'm not, economically have as much money as I'd like, wow. Some of the things I've seen around the world, you understand what poor really looks like, and you understand how blessed we are by the grace of God to be born here, not somewhere else. So I was taught from a young age that to whom much is given, much is expected. And even though I didn't grow up in a wealthy family, my dad was a school teacher, a physics teacher, but he instilled in us that you are wealthy beyond belief because of where you get the fortune to be able to live. And I think that's very true. And so, we do everything we can to try to help those that aren't in, the kind of good situation we are.
Fantastic. Well, again, David, thanks so much for the time. Keep up the great work, and maybe we'll catch up with you down the road, see how things are coming together.
Oh, I hope so. That's great. Thank you.